Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Garden of Sports. We're your hosts, Zach Gardner and Jake Gardner,
Yo!
and it is time for hockey week 13. Yeah, everybody, week 13 is on the horizon, and we have a kind of a really fun show planned for you today. We're going to go over top storylines of the past week and surprises of the week, followed by injury news, buy low and sell high trade targets, and as always, we're going to wrap things up with Scoop 'em Up. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we hope you enjoy this week's episode.
Hell yeah.
So without any further ado or any further gilding of the lily, we're just going to jump right into this here. So storylines. Started off with the big one that we kind of mentioned already. The NHL still postponing a ton of games. It is getting very frustrating because every other game seems like it's getting postponed. I don't know what the NHL can do, but they need to try and do something because doing nothing is obviously not taking care of anything either. I do have an article for reference here from Yahoo News. This is just telling about all the games that have been postponed. In all, the NHL has delayed 90 games this season for COVID-19 issues, postponements that prompted the league to cancel plans for a February shutdown that would have let players compete in the Beijing Olympics. The games involved in the latest postponements include a 4-game New York Islanders road trip for matches at Seattle on Tuesday, Vancouver on Wednesday, Edmonton on January 8th, and Calgary on January 10th. The Seattle contest was scrapped given the postponement of the 3 Western Canada contests, planned to be reset for later in the season when NHL officials hope current COVID-19 limits on attendance at indoor events might be eased or lifted. So they're just doing all this on a hope and a prayer that things will be different in a couple of months. So basically what they're doing, this is like when you're at school and you get told at the beginning of the semester that you have this big paper due at the end of it, and you're just like, oh, okay, so I can wait until like a week before it's due to even worry about that. That's basically what the NHL's doing here. Just pushing it off. They're just basically like, oh, future NHL can worry about that. Other games postponed were Minnesota's contests Monday at Ottawa and January 12th at Edmonton, Vegas games at Edmonton on January 14th, and Calgary on January 15th, and Edmonton's game at Winnipeg on January 16th. So there's a lot of games postponed even into next week. So basically, I just wanted...
It's getting really annoying for fantasy owners, and
yeah.
Well, I'm sure anyone listening to any fantasy hockey podcast is super into hockey first off anyway, and then dealing with this for a month now is just insane. It's just something we have to deal with. I don't know. We can go over, I guess, adding IR spots to the league and stuff like that too, Zach.
But where does that end? How many IR spots? We already added IR spots. Like we got up to the 4th IR spot during when the pandemic started. And this 2 years into the pandemic, it's worse now than it was when nobody knew anything about the pandemic.
Here's something I thought about.
That's the part that I don't understand really. How do we not 2 years in have a freaking plan together for COVID? Like, people are going to get COVID.
Yeah.
What is this?
They thought the vaccine would stop spreading, like stop the spread if you had the vaccine, but it didn't. So that just kind of set it back to like square one again, I think, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with the vaccine now, it's non-deadly, but yeah, no, this is my proposal that I thought about presenting to the basketball league, but I didn't just because people were being frustrating. But I was thinking like you could add, especially in hockey because they're worse off than basketball. Basketball never shut down. You could propose like add 2 IR spots for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, or you could say add 2 IR spots until the COVID slows down and then take it back.
Okay.
And you have everyone would have to agree on it, but
well, yeah,
it'd be like a temporary like everybody's dealing with it, so you get an extra IR spots, and when this outbreak stops a bit in the NHL, then it goes back to 4.
Yeah, I mean that's something to definitely think about. I mean,
Hmm.
I at this point I'm willing to listen to all types of different options available to
Yeah, but then
help
like
ease the suffering.
it doesn't help with the postponed games because those guys don't go to out, you know.
Right.
So you
Right.
can't stream
No.
anybody then. So it's just
Yeah,
there's
it's
also
just
is that worth it or
so it just basically sucks if you have a lot of Canada players on your team, you're getting screwed more than anybody else because Canada's the ones that are really causing all these games to be postponed because they're much more
really?
strict than the US. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like all the Canadian teams have games postponed if they have to play their game in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And then if an American team has to travel to Canada, those games are getting postponed. Basically, Canada is not allowing anything to be done. So really, Canada's the problem. And I think it's about time we invaded. What do you think, Jake?
Um, they'd be pretty easy to take out. They have a weak military.
They'd probably just let us come in and overtake them. They'd be like, "Hey, welcome, come rule us."
Yeah. No, we don't want to do that.
No, yeah, it's obviously a joke. Don't come at us.
I
Um,
think it's not just them, right? I mean, didn't you just say the Islanders had 4 games postponed or something?
yeah, and three of them were in Canada, and
Oh,
they just postponed the Seattle one because Seattle's close to Canada. Basically, is what they were like. You know,
just the
logic.
logic.
They were using their logic.
Yeah, it's just
So
frustrating, but we can move on.
big brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll move on to that. Spent a little more than maybe we should have on that, but we're journalists. Semi
Journalists.
pseudo
Well,
journalists.
anybody can say they're a journalist nowadays, so I guess we are.
We're gentlemen and scholars.
Oh, good.
So yeah, next storyline here. Evander Kane placed on waivers by the Sharks with intent to terminate the contract. I don't think this really comes as a surprise to anybody.
Yeah, no.
One thing I was reading. I can't remember if I read this officially from an NHL page or just from someone on like Twitter or something, but they're talking about how apparently they're gonna terminate his contract now because something along the lines of he tested positive for COVID, like either in the off season or right before the season was going to start, and they
Mm,
have video of him like out partying, even though he like just tested positive that same day. So
yikes.
that's kind of why they want to be rid of him. I kind of understand if that's true.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
And then the Stars, John Klingberg. I read this yesterday. This is officially from the NHL website, news website. Stars John Klingberg unhappy with contract negotiations in Dallas. He doesn't feel appreciated, and at this point, he's not like going to be like sitting out games or anything. But it's kind of looking like he's just gonna be done with. He's like, I'm gonna play this season, and if nothing happens, nothing happens, and I'll be on a new team. Is pretty much what he said. So like he's just kind of frustrated that because he's been such a good player for them, and it just seems like they're just
Hmm.
taking the cheap way out instead of he's done so much for that team
Yeah,
over the years,
he's,
and they're
he's been
just
a
not going
shit
to
though.
reward him.
Yeah.
But that's very very common in sports.
Hmm.
Uh, so then that's all the big storylines. And then now we'll move on to surprises of the week. So the main surprise that I found looking over everybody's performance the last week, Brian Rust went off. He was the highest scoring player, at least in the way Jake and I's league is set up. He scored 40 points over the last week, 7 goals and 3 assists in 3 games. That's going off, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, dude, Jesus.
It's crazy. So that was definitely a surprise because he's not normally a player that does something like that, just going off like that. And then really besides Rust, I looked over the way our league is, it was just a ho hum week really. All the superstars played like superstars, kind of a very straightforward, by the book week. So
Hmm.
not a ton of surprises at all. So yeah, Brian Rust, if you had him this week, he probably single handedly won you a matchup.
Damn.
And then going into injury news, I'm going to start off just running down the list of guys that entered the COVID protocol this week. Philip Forsberg, John Gibson, who actually tested positive, Jesper Bratt, Brian Rust, which kind of sucks because he went off and then he got COVID, Mitchell Marner, Igor Shesterkin, Hampus Lindholm, Vladimir Tarasenko, Travis Konechny, Ivan Provorov, Claude Giroux, Connor McDavid, Pavel Zacha, Alex Tuck, Alex Iafallo, Alex Wenberg, Sam Reinhart, Artemi Panarin, Alexander Romanov, and Kevin Lankinen. Again, all those guys went into the COVID protocol this week. And that's not the full list. I mean, there's a super long list of COVID protocol guys. These are just like all the main really fantasy relevant guys that have went into protocols. If you want to get the full list, you can you look for that yourself. What I like to use for injury stuff is puckpedia.com that has up-to-date information on there. So that's a good source for that. And then now I got actual physical injuries. Jacob Markstrom, day-to-day undisclosed. Jonas Brodin, out, upper body. Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie, both on IR with non-COVID illness. Kirill Kaprizov, IR, upper body. Paul Stastny, day-to-day lower body. Charlie McAvoy, out, lower body. Jack Johnson, out, lower body. Andre Kasha, out, undisclosed. Elvis Mertzlikins, out, lower body. Sam Bennett, 3-game suspension for illegal check to the head a few games ago. Yeah, it's not great. Dougie Hamilton, this is a kind of a big one here. Dougie Hamilton, IR jaw injury. He had surgery this week. He's going to be out a while. And we'll be talking more about this later in the episode, so stay tuned for that. Ryan Getzlaf, out, non-injury related. Cam Talbot, out, lower body. Vince Dunn, day-to-day, non-injury related. And then the Nuge, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, injured reserve, lower body. Jaden Schwartz, out, upper body. He's going to get hand surgery and miss 6 weeks. So that's kind of a big blow, one of their leading scorers on the Blues. Max Pacioretty, IR with a wrist. We were all expecting this. We kind of broke this wrist injury news last week, but now it's just confirmed that he's on injured reserve with it. Really a lost year for Pacioretty. And then Brock Besser, he's out, non-injury related. He cleared COVID protocol this week, but they held him out of like a game or two with non-injury related stuff. So I don't know if he just wasn't. If he was, while he was on the COVID protocol, he like wasn't with the team and he had to travel back to wherever the team is, and then he had to quarantine or something. That's what I don't know if that's what it is or not, but probably something like that. With them being a Canadian team, who knows really? So yeah, now that's all the injury news. We'll break into some buy low trades here, and I got a couple for you.
Finally, dude, I was yawning. Jeez.
Yeah, so buy low here. Yeah, they suck, dude. Like so many of them this year. So buy lows, I got Matthew Bartzel. He's had a slow start to the season, but he is undoubtedly the best player on the Islanders, and he's gonna turn it around, and he's already started to do so. He's on a little bit of a point streak. But he's a guy that I think that you could pull off a trade for, and he could be a guy that gives you a lot at like the end of the season into the playoffs if he starts to turn it around and play like he normally does. And then Cam Atkinson, he's on a nice little point streak right now. This is a guy that has a tendency to bury pucks. He would be a nice low-cost addition to any strong team. Like if you're a team that you feel pretty strongly that you have a chance, like at this point, about halfway through, you feeling pretty good about your playoff chances, maybe making it to the finals. Like everything's looking kind of good. in your eyes? Trading for Cam Atkinson would be great in that kind of situation because he's a guy that can just sit at the bottom of your roster that you don't have to worry about, that, can just give you that consistent scoring every game. He's not going to give you like superstar going off numbers, but he'll give you that, like, literally just give you that like 3 fantasy points every game he plays, just because he does a lot. Like, he blocks, he hits, he shoots, does kind of everything that you like for fantasy purposes. And then John Klingberg, slow start, but he's playing good hockey lately. He won't cost much right now, and he has top 10 D-man upside. So definitely, I think a guy worth trading for. He's a guy that the last like 4 or 5 seasons, has finished as a top 10 defenseman, and he's just not anywhere near that this year, just because he had such a slow start with injuries and COVID and everything kind of slowing him down. But if he can consistently, hit the ice, definitely a guy that can score you a bunch of points. And maybe there's a frustrated owner of him right now that you could get a trade done for. I think that would definitely be a good move for you. And then
Sure.
I mentioned this next guy last week. I'm going to keep mentioning him. Nick Suzuki. Says he's Suzuki, but he has the potential to play like a Porsche. So I would be trying to trade for him. He's playing top line, top power play right now, and he's going to start scoring anytime. When he does, the floodgates are going to open. He could be a very high reward trade. So I would be trying to put offers in for this guy.
Okay.
The last couple of weeks, he's been playing like 23, 24 minutes a game. He's bound to start scoring anytime with getting that much volume. And then next guy, Oliver Bjorkstrand. This is another guy that has a tendency to put the biscuit in the basket. He won't cost much, and he would be a nice addition to a strong team. Similar to Cam Atkinson, Bjorkstrand is a guy that you can just have on your roster and just pretty much never have to worry about. He's just a guy that's going to get you solid points. That's just who he is. He's always been a very good, well-rounded fantasy player. Just guys like that are nice to have. Guys that aren't flashy, like give you a ton of like the big numbers, but he'll just give you enough to where he'll help you win at like the bottom of your roster type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then next, Patrick Laine. He's back from his injury, and he's started, hasn't really been going off since he returned. But he's not going to be struggling for long. This is your opportunity to snag him. This guy has 40 goal upside. Like, he's a guy that, could be a top player on your team. And his numbers have gone down a little bit since he came back from injury, just because he's getting his feet under him,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's not going to last too much longer, and he's going to start scoring like he was at the beginning of the season. So I would definitely be sending offers in for this guy right now.
Okay.
And then, that's pretty much everybody I had for my buy lows. Is there anybody you want to talk about, Jake?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Mike Smith. So he's been doing terrible since his return from injury. But we know how good he can be, and he can just be carried by that team and get wins. So is he worth like a cheap buy low, or is he just a drop?
I definitely think he's worth a cheap buy low. If you're on a strong team, maybe you already have 2 good goalies, and you're just looking for somebody to be like a nice third or something, a third goalie for you.
Or if you just don't have a goalie, they're hard to come by.
They are.
Hockey. I was looking around our whole league, and some guys have like 2 goalies, and one's mediocre and one's not even good. So it's a struggle.
Right.
So
there is a lot of people that do the strategy of not caring about the goalie position. That's just not how I personally roll. I always try to do the best in every position as good as I can. Like, that's just how I do it. And I feel like if you can manage to get like 2 actually good goalies on your team, that just helps you get more points. And all I'm ever looking at is how I get more points. And if I can have 2 good goalies that get wins and stuff, that you're going to win more matchups. So that's just I really don't believe in that zero goalie strategy. I think that it's
Yeah.
just personally kind of silly.
Yeah,
But
I didn't
so
see
I
any
mean,
zero. Just
well,
yeah.
not so much in our league, but like I've heard a lot of other hockey podcasts talk about the zero. They call it this quote unquote zero G strategy, zero goalie.
Mm.
Like guys like in the draft, in the fantasy draft, don't even draft goalies. They just like pick them up off of waivers after the draft. Um, I just think that's a silly strategy. Maybe it's just
Yeah.
because of the way our league is structured. Goalies are a little more valuable than maybe in standard leagues that don't
Hmm.
have a manager go in and change settings or change um, the way points are calculated type of thing. So maybe in our league, it is a very silly strategy. But maybe in some leagues, it is a good strategy. That's just not one that really works in our league though. The way
Gotcha.
I have it structured, unless we changed some things up. But I don't know. Everybody seems to be happy with the way I've done it. But yeah, back to not get off topic too much.
Yeah, toot your own horn.
Mike Smith, I do like him just because he's on Edmonton. That's a team that can walk into that's a guy that Mike Smith on that team can walk into a win any given night.
Hmm.
Now he has been playing pretty bad lately. But I just feel like he can break out of that slump. He's a talented goalie. At some point, something's got to give, I feel like. And he's definitely a guy that you could trade for and not have to give up a hell of a lot at all. So I kind of do like that. I think that's a good buy low if you're really looking for a goalie.
Yeah, if you just really don't have a decent one, and he could get you start getting you 10 points a night when he's playing if he comes back to form. So
Right.
yeah, and I was gonna bring up Troy Terry because he was kind of in a slump, but now he had a big game the other day, so maybe you could get him. But yeah, like his numbers are down lately, so
Yeah, and you
but
know what?
I'm
I
sure he'll
mean,
come back up.
with young guys, I mean, you're saying he's down and he's still averaging 3.6 right now. He did have a hat trick the
Yeah,
other day, like you said. Yeah, that definitely brought the numbers up. Um, but I
yeah.
mean,
So it
yeah,
would have been
very,
like before that, but
yeah. There's still a chance that he could be a nice buy low, later in the year. But
I mean, yeah, I think he could still just considering he was at 4 or
yeah,
above
maybe
4 before this. I don't see why he couldn't reach that again.
right. And now like everybody's starting to come back. Like Zegras missed like a couple weeks with COVID protocol and stuff. Like they're starting to get everybody back now from all the COVID stuff. So maybe everybody will start doing a little bit better on that
Hmm.
on the Ducks. Because I do think they are a surprising good team still, and I don't think that they were just a flash in the pan start. I think they are a good team. So
Hmm.
uh,
Oh
so
yeah,
yeah, we'll move on now to sell high trades. So
dude, bro, just go to the second one and say you're wrong.
yeah, so I'm gonna keep. I'm not gonna say that I'm wrong. No, but I mean it's getting there. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna go down with this ship.
Mm, I think it's just a career year, and maybe he'll never do it again.
I mean that is a possibility, and
You know.
it's just kind of funny. I can see it already. Like he's gonna have a great year this year. He's gonna be like a first or second round pick, like a second or third round pick maybe next year, and not do shit like that. That's just how I feel
Hmm.
about it. But yeah, I mean, if you have Devin Taves, I'm by no means just because I have him on my list. If you're like, oh, you're full of crap, no, keep him. He's scoring you points. He's helping you win games. Keep him.
I mean, he's
I'm
my
just
highest
saying.
average
I'm
defenseman.
just yeah. I'm just saying the only way. Like I'm not telling you just go trade him for fucking some like kibbles and bits or whatever.
Hmm.
I'm like you trade this guy for like a very very high performing player. And if you can't get that, then just keep him and get the points that he's getting you. This could, but he definitely is a sell high just because he's never performed at this level before. So I'm not going to
Hmm.
say that, okay, well, here's Devin Taves. He's a superstar defenseman. I'm not going to say that just
Apparently,
yet.
apparently.
He's playing like it, but we'll see if he can maintain it.
I mean,
So that's
it's a pretty big chunk of data now. I mean,
Yeah, it is, and he's getting a lot of ice time, and he's on a team on one of the best put together teams in the whole league. So like he has more freedom. Like just a bunch of other guys make it a lot easier for him. I don't think he really does
mhm,
a lot of the dirty work. I just feel like he's a beneficiary of everybody else on the team just playing so well defensively, or just they have such good puck control and such good passing, good zone play. Everybody on that team, like they're just a well-oiled machine, and I just think Devin Taves, that just makes him able to skate freely out there and just do his thing. I don't think he has to think too much. I just think it's the perfect situation for him. And we'll see if he can maintain it. I mean, he could just be the best surprise player of this season. But I would also still be trying
mhm.
to trade him for like Victor Hedman or something.
Well, he's hurt again, isn't he? Or he got COVID?
Yeah, I think he's on the COVID list. Yeah.
Okay, so he's not hurt.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, that's Devin Taves. And then Drake Batherson. Uh, definitely think he's a sell high. He was on a tear to start the season, in putting up insane numbers. He's definitely starting to slow down a little bit. This is your chance to still sell him high while he's at a high value. But those numbers are coming down, and I think that you need to move off from this guy as quick as you can before he just becomes more of just an average player, and you can't get as much for him. But yeah,
Hmm.
those are like the two biggest ones. Like these are two guys that are gonna keep making my list every week, just because I've already said so much about them that I'm not gonna flip flop now. I'm just gonna go
Hmm.
down with these two ships and just pray that I'm right, so that I can say that I'm right on my podcast.
Oh my god.
And then my next guy, Tomas Hertl. Um, he is historically a streaky player, and he is currently in the middle of his hot streak. This is an obvious sell high to me. I've owned Thomas Hurdle in the past, and he's left plenty to be desired.
Okay.
He will start slowing down any day now. This is his peak value. In 2-3 weeks, you're not going to be able to get anything for him. He might even be a drop within the next month. Uh, but
Okay.
yeah, he's a sell high. Try and get what you can. Um, and then William Nylander, also historically a streaky player, not as streaky as Hurdle, who I just mentioned, but streaky nonetheless. See what he could fetch you. Trade for consistency, or just keep riding him while he's hot, because he's getting some power play time and stuff. But I'm just not a believer in William Nylander, even though I see that he's a talented, obviously. But I think that you could trade and get something better. Maybe you could trade Nylander and get like Andrei Svechnikov or something. I just think you could do
Hmm.
something like that and get a more consistent player that is just not somebody. Because yeah, I've also owned Nylander in the past, and he's just always been a guy that I've been when I have owned him, looking at him and just like, I wish he could do a little bit more.
Hmm.
But yeah, if so do you have anybody you were thinking of for sell highs?
Um, I was looking at it, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
Uh,
I was struggling to find guys.
just with
Looking
all
at
the
everybody's
postponements
teams.
and like, I
Yeah,
feel like these guys can't get any consistency.
right.
Um, yeah, because like I could bring up Kunsel, but I feel like I would never want to trade him. But he is
Uh,
going off.
yeah, no, that's Gensel's just like a star player. You wouldn't sell him.
Yeah, it's just like can he maintain above 5 as a forward?
I think he can, because he has before.
Hmm. Yeah, like
Like,
3 years ago. So it's like
well, he always
it was
gets
like
he always gets
half a
hurt.
year. Yeah.
He's a very injury prone guy, but when he does play, he's one of their best players.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'm. It was sell highs are hard in the NHL, because most of the time the guys that are doing that good are the superstar players. Like the NHL is not something where there's a ton of guys that aren't like what it is, that it isn't well known that they're like a great player that actually perform super well. Normally it's just very obvious streaks with people. Like the NHL is a pretty easy one to read, like streak wise. Like usually you just know, okay, this guy's just on a hot streak. That's not. So the NHL is really hard for sell high trades. I feel like there's not very often a guy like Devin Taves who comes out of nowhere and consistently puts up good numbers. Like usually it's the guy everybody knows about. That's like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy was highly touted prospect. Look at him starting to put up numbers. Okay, like it's usually just a lot. I don't know. That's just how I feel about the NHL. Like it's not as hard to pick out who's going to have a breakout year. It just seems like to me. I could be totally off base with that, but that's just how I feel. Sell highs are always hard for me to find for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah, sorry.
actual ones that could actually you could actually pull off is hard because most people aren't stupid that play fantasy hockey. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they're even playing it means they know more than most people about hockey because not a lot of people play fantasy hockey. So
It's true.
um so yeah, but yeah, we want you all playing fantasy hockey. It's great. It's amazing. Everyone should do it so that they can come listen to our podcast.
Yeah, I don't think we have a random on for you to advertise to that is not playing fantasy hockey.
True. Tell your friends to play fantasy hockey and listen to our podcast.
Oh my god.
So now we'll move into scoop 'em up. We'll start it off here. Started off with Blake Coleman. Been on a tear the last week. 2 goals and an assist in 3 games. And I know that that's only 3 points in 3 games. So you're like, a tear? But he bangs. So if you're in a league that counts hitting and shooting and blocking and all of that stuff, because Coleman's historically a good defensive forward, this is a guy that he's starting to put it together and give you like a ton of points if you're in like a banger league. So definitely a guy worth adding. And then another guy, Ilya Mishiev on the Toronto Maple Leafs, young player, second line, second power play. He's playing great all around hockey since his return from injury. He's not playing on the first line with Austin Matthews, but he is doing great on the second line with John Tavares and William Nylander. He just fits on there like a glove. And he's played 3 games since he returned from his injury that kept him out of the whole start of the season. And I brought him up like 3 weeks ago, and Jake almost laughed me off the air by mentioning him because he was only like 0.2% owned at the time that I was mentioning him. But who's laughing now?
Ilya. What's he
Ilya
on?
Mishiev.
He's up to 5.3, bro. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, he's up to 5.3% owned, but he's also up to averaging 5.3. So it looks like I was right, huh?
I mean, it's a small sample size, but yeah.
Yeah, so wait, hold on. You cut out there, Jake. What did you say? You're breaking up?
What?
Said, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I know.
4 games with 16 minutes. I would sell high. Personally.
All right, well, you heard it here first. Sell high. I don't know.
I care. He has to get more owned.
Yeah, he's got to get more owned. We got to pump him up. He should be owned. He's doing good. Like I just kind of had a good feeling about him, and he's playing good so far. Hopefully, he can keep it up.
Sure.
And then next guy, Ryan Johansson. He's already having a very nice season, so he should be owned just off of what he's done previously. He's only like 30% owned or something. And he's averaging over 3 points per game in our league. But now he's going to be doing even more damage with Forsberg out with COVID. So definitely be scooping him up because he's going to be he's going to get more ice time and everything with Forsberg going down. So that's a guy you want to get on your team right now for sure. Definitely now, even if the Forsberg thing didn't happen, I would still be having Johansson on this list because even when Forsberg was playing, Johansson is having like a career resurgent year. So he already was going to make the list anyway. Now even more so, like he should be one of the top added players this week. And then we've mentioned this guy a bunch. When he's taking breaks from touring, He finds time to touring with his like hit songs from the 90s. He
Oh my
is playing
god,
some hockey. Rob Thomas, everybody.
bruh.
No, but Robert Thomas, we've mentioned him. He's made the scoop him up list like a few times in the past. He's having a great season and he's flying way under the radar. He's a point per game player. I think he's played like 26 or so games and he has like 25, 26 something points.
Hmm.
Really a guy like that should not be on the waiver wire, but the most of his points are assists, so there's like no flash to his game. But he's very low owned and probably available. You should scoop him up. At this point, it's hard to find guys that can be holds on the waiver wire, but I think this guy's a guy you could scoop up and hold the whole season. And we're already halfway into the season. You don't find that often. So,
Yeah.
and then my next guy, Noah Dobson, he made our list last week. And he's only gotten better since last week. So, and he's very low owned. He's like 5% owned, or I think he's actually gone up. I think he's like 20% owned or something now. But
Hmm.
since we talked about him last week, he's hit a new gear and like even scoring even more. He needs to be owned. He's playing like a top offensive D man, so get him while you can. And then Noah Dobson. Or Jesus, we just
Yeah, you're
yeah,
good.
the Noah Dobson's twin brother, Noah Dobson. Jesus.
Wait, you didn't.
I just talked about Noah Dobson, and then I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
you
and
just
then
reread
next, Noah Dobson.
it. Yeah, Jesus.
Oh my God, get a new
Now it's
host.
Damian Severson.
Yes, so
Damon.
Damon Severson. He is the quarterback of the top power play now that Dougie Hamilton is on IR with his jaw injury. Needs to be
Hmm.
scooped. This guy just went up from like 18 minutes a game to like 25 just because he's getting all the power play time now. This guy scoop up and just hold until further notice. I mean, the whole thing with D-men, you're looking for guys that are on the top power play defensemen because that's how most defensemen get points is power play points. So
Hmm.
get him on your team. It's a no-brainer. Literally a no-brainer. You're welcome. Okay, moving on. Uh, Yanni Gord. This dude is the top line PP center. Uh, this dude's the top line power play center. Uh, Even though it is for the Kraken, he's performing very well and should be owned. He's getting big PP time. There is
God.
there's way too much volume for him to be on the waiver wire. Literally, go scoop this guy up. I drafted him with like one of my last picks, and I've held him all season. He has not been somebody I've ever worried about. Like he's been performing pretty good the whole year. Um, Go pick him up. You should not be as low owned as he is. He's like 30,
Hmm.
40% owned, which is it's kind of crazy for a guy that's a top center on a team. Even a bad team, they still score points. Um,
Hmm.
Next, Brady Shea, defenseman on Carolina. He is on kind of a tear the last week. If you need defensive depth, he could be a nice short-term streaming option. I don't see him as a hold. He's just a guy on a hot streak right now. But if you really need some points, he's a guy you could pick up. He's on a hot streak right now. Uh, Next, Alexander Kerfoot. Um, he's on a cheeky little tear lately. He's lighting up the scoreboard, getting top line, top power play time. Ride him while he's hot. He's playing with Austin Matthews at the moment. And then a sneaky little strat this year that a lot of people are doing, myself included, is just stream whoever is on that top line rotation with Austin Matthews because whoever is up there just gets points by proxy just by being on the ice with him. All you got to do is pass it to him, and you're gonna get points. So just you want to have anybody that's on that line just because that's just beneficial.
Okay.
Um, and then my next guy here, Denis Gurianov. So remember when he was the talk of the town last year after his great rookie season 2 years ago, and then had a sophomore slump. Pepperidge Farm and Zach remembers.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
well, he is tingling the twine now, and at the very least, stream him while he's on a hot streak. But remember, this guy not too long ago was a highly thought of prospect, and he could be a hold if he is not going to go through a slump like he did last year. This guy does have talent. A lot of people were high on him just last year, so this is a guy that could be a potential hold if he can get his shit together. But yeah, that's pretty much all my scoops I had. Did you have anything to add at all, Jake?
Yeah. This might be more of a banger league, if you could tell me. Eric Johnson, 3.7 average on the season in our league, which is a half point banger league. I feel like you can't just leave that. I mean, usually anything above 3 is a grab for the most part, and he's been playing all year. We talked about him before. It's just he's still very low owned. He's only 17% owned, and
Yeah,
I just grabbed him during the podcast because I had dropped him. He was down to
no, that's a good move.
3.4 or 3.2 or something, and I said, oh, he's probably just slowing down. But
Yeah,
he looks like he's picking it back up again, and
no,
I mean
it's
it's a
a good
season
move.
long. I don't know.
I'm
I don't know why
surprised
it's
he's
so
averaging
available.
he's
Yeah.
averaging that high. I saw that after I made some moves.
Hmm.
Like I just picked up Damon Severson, and then I saw
Okay.
Eric Johnson after that. But I still like Severson getting the top power play time. But yeah, you can't deny Eric Johnson is doing good. But the reason his average is so high in our league is because our league is a semi banger league because we do get hitting points and stuff. So
Yeah,
that's why he's definitely a guy definitely worth a pickup in a banger league. But just a regular scoring league only, maybe more fringe, kind of a guy you could maybe more of a streaming option then. But I think at this point he's proven himself to be a hold in a banger league.
hmm
Just Colorado's defense is so the depth on that defense. I haven't seen a defensive unit
hmm
play this good. They got 5 guys that are all all viable scoring defensemen. Like I've never seen anything like that. It's crazy.
hmm
But
Yeah,
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 do you have anything
that's it
else
for
that you
me.
were thinking about? Any
No, there's some
musings? Jake's
fringe
musings?
guys. There's some fringe guys that are probably also banger leagues, like I think you talked about him, but Oliver Keelanton,
I think I
Callenton,
have mentioned him in the past. Yeah, he's like a
probably a banger
streaming
league
guy.
guy, but yeah, he's like 3.1 average, so
Okay.
pretty good.
Yeah,
Especially for
I've
like
seen him
a
around.
competitive league. There's not a lot available, so
Yeah, our hockey league is pretty competitive.
or just any competitive league. Just
Well, yeah, any competitive league. Slim pickings out there if everybody's
hmm
scooping guys up. But a lot of these guys are very low owned that we've mentioned today. So most likely you can go at least find. If you can't find one of these guys, then why are you even listening to this podcast? Really?
No, they're out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely, if you can just get one of these guys that we mentioned and scoop them up, that's somebody that can help you win. So just go out there and take a look. Cheeky little look. And just do what you can. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. Brother.
hmm Understandable.
Yeah, so just real quick, before we depart here, I'm just gonna go over the next week's schedule. So, um, kind of a weird week in the NHL because we have mentioned all the postponements. Getting back a little bit more normal though. Um, we do have more games this week. Um, but I don't think the schedule grid that I'm looking at is up to date with injuries or postponements. So just take all this with a grain of salt. But this
Mhm.
week, Wednesday and Friday are the normal Tuesday, Thursday, where Tuesday, Thursday is usually the low, not a lot of games played days. This week, that is Wednesday, Friday. So teams that are playing Wednesday, Friday that you can pick up some streaming guys for those low volume days. Um, you can pick up somebody from um, Arizona, Dallas, Edmonton, or Minnesota. Those teams play on Wednesday and Friday, and you can get two extra starts on a day that not a lot of people are playing. So like Denis Gurianov, who we talked about, he's on the Stars. Just and scoop him up. He's on a scoring streak right now. You could pick him up and get some points on a Wednesday and Friday. That'll really help you a lot, and like pick up some points if you're behind a little bit. Just hope that whoever you're playing doesn't have guys going on Wednesday, Friday. So, that could be a beneficial move for you. And then as far as back-to-backs go, I was just pondering over the schedule here. Arizona has a back-to-back. Well, both games are against Colorado, so maybe it's not they're going to get shellacked on 2 nights in a row. Yikes. Colorado Friday and Saturday. No thanks. Moving on to the Anaheim Ducks. They play Minnesota and Chicago Friday, Saturday. Those are 2 winnable games for the Ducks, who I think are a better team these days. And you might, get 2 starts from their goalie because John Gibson's hurt. So their goalie Stolarz, he might get both starts on that back-to-back. So maybe Stolarz is a guy worth picking up this week too. I didn't really go into goalies too much, but definitely,
yeah, me either. I didn't.
Definitely with John Gibson being out, Stolarz is a must-add goalie. He's been playing great this season as the backup to John Gibson, just not getting obviously a lot of games because Gibson's a workhorse. But when Gibson's been out a couple times, Stolarz has performed very well, very, very well. And those are winnable games against Minnesota and Chicago. So definitely a guy you can go add goalie-wise. So that being said, I just said Arizona is going to get shellacked by Colorado on Friday and Saturday. So go pick up some Colorado guys if they're available because they're going to shellac Arizona on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, Eric Johnson.
So pick Eric Johnson. That's a great move. F you, Jake. Moving. Florida Panthers. They play. They have a back-to-back against Dallas and Columbus on Friday, Saturday. They could shellac those 2 teams. But that's pretty much it as far as the back-to-backs go. Washington Capitals has a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. Against the Islanders and against Vancouver. Definitely 2 winnable games for the Capitals. And then the Winnipeg Jets have a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday against Ottawa and Edmonton. So that might be something worth considering. Guys, it's good to get those back-to-backs. Get you some points.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, that's the schedule. Anything else you want to add, Jake? Or is that curtains?
No, I'm good, dude. That was great.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. Be sure to like and subscribe and share and comment and all the goodies on our YouTube channel. We are really trying to grow our community, and we're just glad that you're with us now and at the start of it. And we're glad we have you with us, and we'll see where this goes. And we're just hoping that it continues to grow. And we just appreciate all the support. And obviously, you can also find us on all our social media. We're very active. We're on Facebook. We're on Facebook.com/Garden of Sports Podcast. We're on Instagram, Instagram.com/Garden of Sports. We're on Twitter, Twitter.com/GOSPod 2021. And obviously our YouTube channel. So again, thank you everybody. And we'll be back next week with another hockey episode.
Yeah, thank you.